we recently interviewed Guy Molinari, a former Republican, a veteran Republican from Staten Island, held a lot of positions there. Asked about the race, he said, well, you ended up getting a ton of money. That was kind of the difference maker. He said your wife is an administrative law judge, and that helped out with a lot of lawyers contributing. So I just want to give you the opportunity to respond to those comments.
It's really, typical sort of sour grapes from, Guy Molinari was the mentor first of Michael Grimm, and who's now in jail, and then he brought someone else to the race and nobody knew who he was. And he ran and he won and I lost that race in 2010 in the Tea Party wave that was swept across the country. Somebody who had a good resume, nobody knew, and look what happened. So once again, Molinari tried that. He brought someone who from the Manhattan D.A.'s office with a resume to say, this is my candidate. And this time,
Jonah Lucy.
Exactly. And this time the people of Staten Island said, no, wait a minute. We know who Mike McMahon is. We've known him his whole life. He's been a community board member, civic association president, Little League coach, active in charitable boards. He had a law firm here in Staten Island for 15 years. He's been active in our community his whole life. He's been our city councilman. He's been our congressman. He's the guy we want as our district attorney. For Guy Molinari to somehow bring my wife into this or some tangential thing is ridiculous. This was an election that we were expected to lose. At the end of the day, we won overwhelmingly by 10% or more points, which for a Democrat on Staten Island who did not have the Conservative Party as well has not happened in a generation. This was an election where Democratic turnout was more active than the Republican, North Shore to South Shore. That has not happened in a generation. Our numbers in the South Shore, where maybe we didn't win, which is traditionally Republican, but we held very strong. And in the North Shore, we won overwhelmingly. For him to somehow say that this is because of who I'm married to is ridiculous. I've been active in that community my whole life. I would have been surprised if I wasn't able to raise the money to run the race that we wanted to get the message out. But those contributions didn't just came from lawyers, it came from business people, it came from community activists. We got donations of $25 and $30. It was a great effort. And if you look across the board, if you look at who supported us, it wasn't just traditional Democrats, it was Republicans as well. Even the leadership of the Conservative Party supported me in the race. And you also saw an incredible coming together, really sort of a unity campaign. We were supported by law enforcement, by the cops, by the firefighters, by the detectives, sergeants, lieutenants. What did that have to do with anything other than who I am and what I stand for? And at the same time, we were supported by the leaders of the communities of color, traditional African American, but also new Africans, Pakistanis, Indians, Chinese, all the new immigrants who are coming to Staten Island who are much more prevalent, if you will, and whose numbers are increasing much more than someone from the old guard like Guy Molinari would think. And so this was a modern campaign. This was sort of a new Staten Island. It was a positive campaign. From day one, all they did was attack me. We ignored that, and we just ran on our positive approach that we're going to bring to the problems that Staten Island faces, and they are significant problems.
So coming into this office, as a Democrat, your predecessor was a Republican. Mm-hmm. What will your top priority be, and how will you differ from your predecessor?
Sure. Well, first and foremost is we have to tackle the very pressing issues we have on Staten Island. We have the worst death from overdose statistics in the city and arguably in the state. About once every 5 days, a Staten Islander dies from a drug overdose of either heroin or prescription painkillers, prescription drugs. It's a terrible, terrible problem. We have a murder rate that has not gone down. It's holding steady. Last night there was another shooting on Staten Island. We have a terrible illegal guns problem, young people getting killed on the streets. Our domestic violence rates are up over 4 years, about 65%. And we have a prosecutor's office that is overburdened. We have in our our special victims unit, we're doing domestic violence and sex crimes and crimes against children, crimes against elders, all in one place. ADAs have over 250 cases in their portfolio, and we're not able to deal directly with the issues of preventing and prosecuting crime. One of the problems is that the office has been terribly underfunded. Historically, it sort of happens to Staten Island as the forgotten borough, that there is truth to that charge that we Staten Islanders make. And my predecessor did not actively pursue getting the office its fair share of resources to make it more effective. And that's where I will differ. I ran on that in the campaign. That resonated with the people of Staten Island. They understand that we should have a dedicated narcotics unit that goes after the drugs on the streets and at the source of the traffickers. We should have a domestic violence unit. We should have criminal court attorneys who can go to court and try cases and get the criminals off the street. And we should have things like a community partnership unit that goes out into the community and does things like Begin Again to get people, get violations off their records, and to do programs to buy guns and get them off the street, to build better relationships with the community. Other boroughs have that. Staten Island doesn't, and that's where I differ, because I will work to get those resources so that we can make the office more effective.